So, Karen, it's such a pleasure to have you today, and welcome to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Amy.
Well, I thought we could start at the beginning and, just tell a little bit about your story, please, and start at the beginning. Where
Okay.
where you grew up, school, how did you get to this point?
Okay. Amazing. So, I'm originally from Dublin, Ireland. I have a little bit of twang, as I call it, because I lived in the US for quite a while, but I'm originally from Ireland. And like many Irish, we went to the Catholic Coven schools, right? But I won't get too much into any of that now. And then for university, I actually ended up studying computer programming, and
Wow.
that was quite a while ago, right? That was when a lot of women, especially women, didn't really enter into those professions, right? And also it was really before the bubble as well. So I'll give my age away, but I was actually a COBOL programmer. And so I learned how to code. And then when I finished college, I was offered what we call I guess a lottery green card. There was a lottery back years ago in Ireland because there was a lot of unemployment. There was a lot of unemployment in Ireland, and there was also a lot of them moved to the US and lived illegally. And so the US government allotted a certain number of visas to the Irish. I wasn't living in the US at the time, but I was very lucky to get one. So I thought I should have this amazing opportunity. So when I finished college, I moved to Atlanta, where you're from, Amy.
Right.
Um, and from there, I went into coding. I was a programmer for probably nearly 9 years, and that brought me into the Y2K era. So, which was great because I was a mainframe programmer, and
Mm.
that's where a lot of the issues were. So, um, there was a lot of work, a lot of consulting, but then there was a transition and we had then shortly after that, the whole dot-com era happened and technology changed, Java, C++, all of that was becoming really popular. So I had two paths I could go on. I could either go back and continue to educate myself into these new languages, or I could go into consulting and make some really good money for a while. And I chose the money. I'm not sure if that was the right decision, but that's the path I chose. Did into consulting for a while. Um, and I worked with Toyota and Lexus. I actually had moved to Los Angeles by then. So I was working at those companies out in Los Angeles. And then I really enjoyed the aspect of doing more customer facing roles. And yet I had that technical background. So the next transition was moving into sales. So, and that's actually when I moved to San Francisco because I loved the Bay Area so much. And I started in inside sales and tech sales that was probably about 2004, and worked for a company called Embarcadero Technologies. And then I continued at that for another 8 years. And I decided in 2008, my mother fortunately was very ill and was given a certain amount of time. So I decided to make my way back to Dublin. And that was a pretty tough time because it was 2008. 2001 was tough, and then 2008, as many of us know, was pretty tough. And it probably was a tough time to make a move, quit a job and make a move. So I ended up actually working in a startup for a while, which that wasn't probably my greatest experience. I think just because of everything that was going on at the time. And then I took some time out, got some amazing time with my mother. And then I joined Salesforce in 2010 in Dublin as an account manager, a mid-market account manager, where you also worked, Amy,
That's right.
and in different countries, but the same company. And then I worked my way up to what we call the GB, account manager, strategic account manager, and then moved to London in 2015 and moved into regional vice president role. And I stayed at Salesforce till 2018. I loved those 8 years. It was an amazing time to be at Salesforce. And then just like, we kind of get to a point in our career and we kind of think, well, maybe it's time for a change. And so I joined Zendesk. as a sales leader, which are customer service, which a lot of Salesforce people also work for. So I joined Zendesk in 2018, and I was there for about 2 years, which was amazing, based in London as well. And then, of course, 2020, we all kind of know some of the things that happened from a global perspective in 2020. We're
Yeah.
all sent home to work, and lots was going on in the world. I don't think I need a podcast to tell about it. But I also was going through my own little challenge during that time, and it was called perimenopause.
Yes. Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah,
Yes. Mhm.
so I was really struggling during that time. I was really struggling with energy, motivation. I kind of didn't know what was going on, right? So as
Yeah.
part of that, I felt, what's a good thing to do is when you're not feeling great is change jobs because, if you change your scene, then just go find another job, right? Because that will fix everything, right?
Mm.
So I left Zendesk. I loved working there. I really missed the team. I really missed working in the office. I really enjoy that. So the company I actually joined we're going back sooner into the office, and that was part of the attraction as well. It was a very early stage startup.
Mhm.
And I worked with them for about a year, which was interesting. I learned an absolute ton. I learned a ton. It was during that time that I started to go back and study functional nutrition because I was really struggling, realized the job didn't fix the problem. So I needed to fix the problem. So I started studying functional nutrition. I'd always had a passion for like health and well-being. Just personally, I was always someone that was just trying to do as much as I could, right? And research lots of things. And so this time I decided, couldn't figure it out, trying to do it myself. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go study. And so while I was studying, I didn't actually think of doing it as a career. And then there was a shift really in the industry and technology. I took some time out to kind of figure out what I was going to do, would I would take this career to the next level. And then, like many of us, I got scared. I thought, I'm not ready to go out on my own. I'm not ready. I'm financially, I just don't think I'm in a position. I'm too scared. What if I fail? All the things we say to ourselves, right? So an opportunity came to work with Coupa, which was amazing. I love working for Coupa, right? And many of us know that are in the Salesforce space, right? The procurement tool. Um, they got acquired by private equity
Yeah.
like a few months after I joined, and we often know kind of what happens with that. So it wasn't until the following May that the department that they started in Europe financially it wasn't really scaling at the pace. So naturally, costs get cut quite quickly in those situations to try to then scale up. So I was offered redundancy, and then I said this was my opportunity to go, you know what? It's time. I've spent a lot of time now in researching, fixing myself, as I call it. I don't know if fixing's the right word, but helping me heal and helping me feel better. And so the passion was getting stronger and stronger. And then the opportunity came. The job was no longer there. I could go back, and I've had a few opportunities since to go back in. And every now and then, sure, the fear creeps in, but I am so far into what I'm doing now and could not love my job any more than I do, that working now as a functional nutrition practitioner full time and focusing on professional women who are struggling with perimenopause while juggling everything. So that's now my focus 100%. And couldn't be happier. Couldn't feel better
Oh,
about it.
I can see that. I can like see it on your face. It's so refreshing. And your energy just absolutely comes across that you love what you're doing. I would love to pause for a second, Karen, like help me understand like what is functional nutrition? I don't really know.
Yeah, and many people don't, right? So I think when you look at, say, a doctor, right? When you go often to see a doctor, they're usually looking at, what are you feeling? What's wrong? What's the issue here? Like, oh, well, I've actually sore back, or my stomach, or whatever's going on, right? So they will often give you something to fix the pain or the symptom, right? Here's something to make the pain go away. Here's, say, we can get into all kinds of discussion around drugs right now, but just oftentimes, and that's how they're trained, right? They're trained to make you feel better, and if it requires a prescription, great. Whereas with functional nutrition, or it can be a functional doctor as well, right? You're looking at the root cause, you're looking at the function of the body, you're looking at the whole picture, right? So Amy, if you're, Karen, I'm not feeling great, I'm having some gut issues, I won't just necessarily, okay, well, let's look at the gut, let's look at the whole body, let's look at the brain, let's look at everything, right? And see you as a whole person and understand what is the root cause of that. Now, for me, as a nutrition side, I treat with food and nutrition, right? I'm not a doctor, whereas a functional doctor would also perhaps prescribe alongside understanding the root cause. So it's really seeing that person as a whole person and understanding them and their entire systems and how they function, and helping them overall really is the difference between, say, a nutritionist and like a doctor, right? Or something like
Right.
that.
Wow. So how does it work? If I may, I'm sitting here, Karen, and
Yeah.
so number one, I talk to so many. I have the privilege of getting to meet and talk to so many women, very high performing
Mhm.
women who are leaders, and just they are at the top of the game in their
Right.
career. And in sales leadership is where I get most of the folks that I meet. And
Mhm.
you know, um, I just last week was talking to one of the people that I'm working with, and she shared that, she said, I finally took the step to get some help because I realized that I had been going through perimenopause,
Yep.
and I I thought it was just me for so
Mhm.
long, and I didn't understand, that I was feeling so bad, so
Yeah.
poorly,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand it for a while, and I was so busy, and I finally slowed down enough to say, "There's something not right here, and I've
Right.
gotta get a solution." And so, um, when I think about supporting women, as you talk about, that's what you're doing, who are in perimenopause and in that time of their life where, in my own personal experience, there's not a lot of you have to work hard to
Right.
find good support and treatment and somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
Yep.
Um, uh, I'll just share candidly. I know I went through about 5 years of knowing something was off, and I went to my regular OBGYN, and she was female, and she was extremely intelligent and well educated and delivered both of my babies. And I really liked this woman as a human being and a medical professional. However, when I went to her and said, there's something wrong with me or something's not right, I feel irritable, I've got weight gain, I can't remember anything. And it was really the irritability for me was the major problem. Like I could
Mm.
keep it together at work, but when I got home, every single ounce of patience that I had been
Mm.
spent at the
Mhm.
office or at my desk with, and then the people that I love the most were getting this absolute, like, worst version of me when I got home. And it happened sort of gradually. And so, I attributed it to stress. I attributed it to all these other things. And then finally I began to feel like something was physically off. And I went to the doctor, and she candidly just didn't want to test me, do any blood work tests. She was reluctant to do it and wanted to put me on an antidepressant right away, which I
Okay.
didn't want to do.
So
Anyway, the I experienced it myself. I talked to other women who are dealing with it, and so when I hear you share about functional nutrition, um, I'm so intrigued because this is every woman and it can depend on the ages. Like Karen, what are the ages of of women that are affected? So what age do women start to be impacted by perimenopause? What
yes. So yes, I will, Amy, let me even talk about, even as you say, like, how does it work, right? And I think
Mm,
that's a great question.
yes.
So let me kind of delve into a little bit of the whole picture. So generally, perimenopause, generally the starts to kind of early to mid 40s. And it can happen earlier, and that's really when the hormones, estrogen, progesterone, really kind of start to decline.
Right.
And the issue, and why I focus very much in perimenopause, it's the fluctuations that really are what cause the problems. So many people say, well, men's testosterone, that declines. Absolutely. But what makes it such a roller coaster for women is this constant, this where literally our estrogen could be, if we measured or you got your estrogen tested now in an hour, it could be completely different. It could be really high, it could be really low. And that's what causes, that's why you get hot flushes, that's why you feel brain fog, you have night sweats, and that's what makes that period so hard. Now, I just was speaking to a woman this morning, and she's already in menopause. And menopause occurs when you are 1 year without a period. An average
Mhm.
age is 51, 52. She was 48. And she only
Mm,
actually now is experiencing many of the symptoms. She's experienced more brain fog, more hot flushes, which is hence why we had a call. She's got a very high pressure job. She's embarrassed in meetings when she feels the hot flushes. She feels like she's not on her A game when she's on calls. And
mm,
it's never been like this, right? So when you ask me kind of how does it work from a functional nutrition standpoint, there are many ways you can go about helping women. And one of them is HRT, or it's often called MHT in North America, which is hormone replacement therapy or menopause replacement
right.
therapy.
Okay.
That is super helpful. I do not prescribe HRT. I'm not a doctor. I can certainly talk about my experiences and I can offer a view, but I would never, ever make any recommendations or give any view. That would be way out of my scope. What I do is I try to understand how you live. So this morning I had this call with this woman who I was saying was, she went through menopause at 48, 52, now really struggling, high pressure job, just feeling like, as I said, is she's just not in her A game and just needs someone to help her. And I started to look at the whole picture of, not just when I say the whole picture of her life. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your earlier years. Tell me about your life now. She was telling me she works, she often does Australia calls. So she's on a call by 6 a.m. every morning. She's in the
Right.
UK. And first thing she does is get up and she has a cup of coffee. And I'm like, okay, so do you have anything in your stomach? No. Okay. Do you, when will you eat? Well, I usually am on meetings like for 3 or 4 hours. I might eat around 11. Okay. So you've just put coffee in someone whose hormones are, you're having a lot of hormonal imbalances. Your body's under a lot of stress right now, and you've just put fuel to the fire when you've woken up with coffee. And we could do that probably, 10 years prior or maybe a couple years prior. But when you're in that state, you've got to really nourish and look after yourself, right? So I find out this picture of how they're living, how they're eating, how they're moving, their stress levels, the whole picture of what's going on in their life, their relationship with their husband, their children. Many women right now are struggling with many women have, like our mothers. My mother had children when she was 21, 23, 25, right? Many women now are having well into their 30s. So they're often dealing with teenage or younger children, and then and their parents are older. So they've got so much going on in a high pressure job. They don't even have time to think about, yeah, they're eating well because we're dealing with, people who are well educated. They know what's good, right? But as the woman said to me this morning, I know what's good, but I just don't have the time. I just need someone who's going to hold me a little bit accountable, who's going to help me tweak some of the things that I need, make sure I'm nourished, make sure I'm getting enough protein, fat, fiber, all those different things, right? But my calls would consist of really understanding kind of that life, really understanding what's going on, and then building something for them. I mean, I do have a program in place, right? And that program is very much based on the foundations of how I got through my journey and how I regained my energy. But I also offer very intimate sessions along with that. And I was reflecting this morning after that call. What's more crucial to the women I'm working with is not even the program's got the foundations, which is amazing. It's having the accountability with someone. It's having someone who's kind of there with them. We use the word quarterback a lot in Salesforce. I didn't grow up in the US, but it's kind of a little bit like that. It's someone, their champion, someone rooting for them because they're just struggling. They're like used to being on top of their A game. They're used to and all of a sudden they're just starting to question everything. They're starting to question their confidence. They're starting to question what people are thinking of in the room. And they're just like, I just need help and I just need someone to just kind of, because money is usually not an issue, right? It's not the issue, it's time. And just someone to just kind of like steer them through it. And knowing what to do and knowing what's going on in their life is so crucial to making it, effective for that individual.
Wow. Okay. So I am sitting here listening to you talk about the coffee, and I'm reflecting on the fact that I just drank. Um,
I knew it. I knew
I
it.
just drank a very large, this, I don't know,
An
it's this
American large coffee, which are usually pretty large. The
huge,
coffees in
humongous.
America are
It's
large.
it's like 4 cups. It's like 4 cups of coffee. I don't know how many ounces, whatever, but a ton. And my plan for today, I'm just going to tell you, is to
Yes.
not eat until like 11 because
Okay.
I personally have found what works for me is I like to do fasting. I want a 16/8 fast every day,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
I have a window of 8 hours that I'll eat
I'll
food,
eat.
and then the rest of the time I'm fasting because I read somewhere that was good for me. Um, what?
No judgment here, and you know what I mean. It's not to say that is not okay. It can be for others, and also a lot of the tests were most of them have been done in men. You know,
Mm, mm,
But I just find that with women who are really struggling, they need food,
yeah.
especially they need more fat, they need more protein. And I think we've over the years been so scared about the fat thing,
Mhm.
and so for the brain, it's so important to feel nourished, to feel satiated, all of those things. But as I say, there's no judgment here, and everyone's an individual. What works for everyone at the end of the day, if that you feel good, you feel your brain feels stronger by doing that, you feel energized by doing that, that's the right thing for you, right?
Well, I wasn't asking for, I was just like, well, I don't
You're
know.
on.
We are. So I might as well try to get some free advice, I guess. But well, I guess I was just sitting there thinking. I mean, and then I also was reflecting. I also try to drink an absolute, what I think is a very high volume of water every day. I'm probably drinking, 3 32-ounce things of water every day, and so maybe that helps. What do you find are some of the like? And I understand it's personal, individual to every woman that you are working with and supporting. What do you find though are some of the primary like mistake, like, I hate to call it that, but really like things to look at that are like, oh
Yeah.
boy, maybe reconsider doing this. Are there
Uh-huh.
2 or 3 things that you see generally that could be quickly done and adjusted, not ever to replace having the support and accountability of you, Karen, but you know, if I'm listening to this show and I'm thinking, okay, what could I do today, or what could I
Right.
do tomorrow that might help me feel better if I'm dealing with perimenopausal, if I'm in perimenopause or I'm in menopause and wherever along that incremental journey, what would you say to that?
Well, and as even though I do help them along the journey, I do offer those kind of foundational elements, right? Because there are some of that. What comes in the one-to-one is more around, okay, so I've tried that. How can I tweak it? Or how can we evolve it, right? And oh God, I need a little rooting here to keep it going. But what I'm finding is, there's a lot on social media right now if I'm sure I'm seeing more of it, right? Because my algorithm, but there's a lot on social media about eating enough protein.
Mm.
And I think that is super, super important. And I'll break into the other ones a little bit. But I think the challenge with protein is people, a lot of people know what they say we should do. And they're not, a lot of my clients are not eating processed food, right? And I think I
Yeah.
also deal mostly with UK and Ireland. We probably eat less processed food in general anyway, as a nation, right? No judgment.
It's okay. It's okay. We invented all this fake food.
Right? So they're not necessarily eating, but what they are eating, we grew up eating, also like the US, a lot of cereals. But now they're
Mm.
shifting from cereals into maybe like, if they're Irish, they're eating nice brown whole breads and they're having, a nice piece of toast and they're having some jam and butter on that. And okay, it's not the worst, right? But they're not getting any fat. They're usually probably not getting enough fiber in that bread because most of those
Mm.
breads do not really contain a lot. And they're getting zero protein, right? And then they say to me, well, oh, this morning the lady said, well, I'm having 2 eggs, so I'm getting protein. There's 6 grams of protein in an egg, right? So 2 eggs is 12 grams. You should be getting on average, unless I mean, on average, you probably should try to get 25 to 30 grams of protein at each meal to keep you strong, keep your muscle, because your muscle mass decreases. I know
Oh,
it's hard. It's hard. I know it's hard, especially
my mouth just dropped. I'm like,
especially at
what?
breakfast, right? Like
Yeah.
traditionally, most of us we haven't grown up often eating a savory breakfast. Most of us are
Yeah.
growing up eating what we call a sweet breakfast, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So getting in at breakfast can be a challenge. So you can have sweet breakfast. You can just have a big bowl of Greek yogurt, or you can have some
Mm.
kefir. If you like cottage cheese, a lot of people don't. I don't. Is a great source, but so if you are having eggs, you need quite a few of those eggs. The cholesterol thing, I'm not that concerned about. You can also supplement with other things. Now that's difficult if you are, you're Amy, you're going into the office every day, or you're jumping on calls at 6 a.m. in the morning, right? So you have to plan. So you can do things like you can have something you can make the night before. You can do shakes. I don't love protein shakes. I don't love protein powder, but they're a great, if you just buy a clean one, they're a great way to get a lot of things in them. Your coconut oil, your fiber, your frozen fruit, your whey protein, or whatever that is. Just make sure it's a really clean one, not filled with all these um, sweeteners and sugar. So I'd
Mm.
say it's getting all of those protein, fat, and fiber components in each of the meal. And it's educating people of what is that. When you say protein, okay, well, you think, well, piece of chicken, right? But there's more to it, and understanding that there's also lots of plant-based sources, right? It's not only animal protein, right? You can get a lot of plant sources. So it's getting those nourishment. And if your meal is made up of all of those things, and making it simple, of course, because you're busy, and most people tick those boxes at dinner because traditionally and culturally we eat that, meat, vegetables and carbohydrate, right? Has been very traditional type of a dinner food. So educating everyone of kind of what that is. And when you do that, you'll feel more energized, you feel satiated, you will actually lose weight. You probably will eat more, but you will lose weight. And I think that is the biggest myth that people
How does
have.
that work, Karen? Because I'm sitting here listening to you describe this, and I'm thinking about, like, how would I fit
It's
in my pants?
It's so true. It's the myth. It's because you are giving yourself, you are satiate. You're giving yourself all the nourishment. You're also eating a lot of fiber. The
Mm.
fiber will help you detoxify the excess estrogen. Will also help you be very regular. All of
Mm.
that are going to be components. But the challenge is when you hit perimenopause, the decline in estrogen affects your blood sugar. It also affects your muscle mass. So all of these is part of the reason when women say they start feeling that middle, they start to feel their bellies a little, because everything starts to shift and change. So if you can manage your blood sugar with good fat, good protein, fiber, all of those things, and many women have what we call an estrogen excess, which means more estrogen with progesterone. It doesn't mean their estrogen is not declining. It's just out of balance with their progesterone. And that helps detoxify a lot of that too. So all of the combination of all that You'll feel more energized. You'll also want to exercise more because you'll feel better. You'll feel more energetic. All of that will help.
Wow.
I know it feels like it's not, and it's like that. It's a little bit like the keto thing, where I'm not into keto. I love carbohydrates. I love sourdough bread. I love potatoes, but I don't eat biscuits or cookies, or I eat dark chocolate, right? I don't eat sugar, very high sugar foods, but I eat nice. I live in Spain right now. I love bread, and I don't have it all the time, but I enjoy, and I think that's the key thing. It's about creating a plan where people can enjoy, they can sustain, they don't feel deprived, and they can fit it into their schedule. That's the golden ticket. And they have someone who's rooting for them, and then there's a community of other women that they work with because they all join as a community. I have group coaching calls. I also I have a couple of Facebook groups, one in my program, one for free, and they get to, there's a community where and I think often that's part of the challenge. I had a conversation with another woman a couple of weeks ago in a financial services, very senior in one of the biggest financial services companies. She asked me, was it just me? And I was just floored. She's
Yeah.
so in her world. She's so busy. Nobody's talking about it at that level, right? Because what if the CEO found out that this lady is struggling? She just doesn't talk about it. She doesn't have time to be on social media and looking at every influencer talking about menopause. She doesn't have time. So she thinks she's the only one really struggling, right? And that was a moment for me when I realized I know there's a lot of silence and stigma around it, but asking me that question, I was absolutely shocked. Absolutely shocked. So we can get into a whole nother conversation about the corporate side of it. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, my goodness, Karen, I'm so intrigued. And I certainly, this is a topic that's very close to my heart. First of all, every woman is going to experience this.
Right.
And secondly, only just now it feels the conversation has become more common to acknowledge the reality of the challenges, both physical, emotional, mental, that all are part of the package of going through this, body change. And it's no longer, I'm really hoping that it no longer becomes this thing that nobody talks about. However, I know that's not true. There's still not enough acknowledgement. There's still not enough even sharing by the older, like our mothers or, our older sisters, may or may not really come clean and tell us the truth about what to expect. It's like a mystery. And so I'm so thrilled to learn just a little bit about what you're doing, and more importantly, also about the community component, be above and beyond what you're offering to the ladies that you work with, to give them a chance to really have that chance to connect. Because one of the things that I know for myself is as we are now at this phase in our lives, we've got busy jobs, busy careers, we've got children, who are not yet out of the house, but are also very busy. Like every moment of the day is typically accounted for. And so the opportunities to connect with other women who are maybe similar experience of their lives, not just physically, but they have the similar pressures from work, and it's a chance to just build community and have support going through that experience of life. I think that's so powerful. How, Karen, how would someone, a listener, get in touch with you and learn a little bit more about the programs that you offer?
Thank you, Amy. Well, I'm actually I'm redoing my website right now
Okay.
because as I've evolved, I've kind of changed in terms of what I'm seeing, the more conversation I have. So I'm going to build something out for January 2025. But the best place to find me is on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
Karen Muldoon. I have links there to more information about, you can access my guide in terms of what I call my top 3 daily practices around for
Mm.
me to keep me energized, motivated, weight, stabilize my weight. So you can find that on my LinkedIn. I'm also, I know this is more of a business focus, but I am on Instagram, Karen Louise Muldoon. I'm also on Facebook. I'd love if you are and any of the lady listeners to join my free Facebook community. I've close to 900 amazing women on there right now.
Wow.
And that is, you can just go and click on, find my profile, Karen Muldoon on Facebook, and the link to my group is in there. And actually, my post today on LinkedIn, I linked to all different things in the comments, so you can access that as well. But my website will
Beautiful.
be my revised website will be coming out very soon.
Okay. And then for everyone listening to today's conversation, I'll make sure to share in our show notes if you want to go to the podcast or need to refer to the podcast, we'll make sure that the links to find Karen are available to you. Karen, what a pleasure it has been to get to learn about you, your journey, and um, coming, evolving your career from this amazing career starting as a programmer, evolving into, sales and at big technology, firms along the way. And it sounds to me as if you had this calling in your heart to do this kind of work. And it's so powerful to see you pivot and launch this much, much needed service for women to support them. And I just want to acknowledge you for the difference and the impact that you're making in the world. I'm so honored to get the chance to meet you today. Thank you for the
Thank you,
conversation.
Amy, and thank you. It was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure. It was great.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you.